Welcome to the CompTIA Project Plus Prepcast by baremetalcyber.com. A project methodology is more than just a set of steps. It is the structured framework that determines how a project's life cycle will be managed from initiation through closing. Methodologies outline how planning is performed, how execution unfolds, how monitoring and controlling occur, and how closure is conducted. They also influence the level of documentation required, the pace of delivery, and the degree of stakeholder involvement. Choosing the right methodology for a project has a direct impact on risk management, delivery speed, flexibility, and the amount of control that can be applied at each stage. Predictive project methodologies, also known as traditional or plan-driven approaches, follow a linear, sequential path. The project progresses in distinct phases where each stage must be fully completed before the next begins, and there is little or no overlap between phases. This structure allows for a clear and predictable progression of work. It is often referred to as the waterfall approach because each stage flows into the next, much like water cascading down steps, without returning upstream once a stage is complete. The waterfall model is built on clearly defined stages, often including requirements gathering, system or solution design, development or build, testing, and final deployment. This approach requires extensive planning and documentation before execution begins, and once a phase is signed off, it is generally considered closed. Going back to make changes after a phase is completed can be difficult, costly, and disruptive to the project schedule. Waterfall offers several strengths that make it an attractive choice for certain projects. Its predictable structure makes it easier to manage budgets, timelines, and deliverables, particularly when the scope is fixed from the outset. The emphasis on early documentation and planning creates a solid baseline for progress measurement, which is especially important in projects that must meet strict regulatory or contractual obligations. For efforts with well-defined requirements and little expected change, Waterfall can be a reliable, low-risk choice. However, Waterfall also has limitations that must be considered. Its linear structure makes it inflexible in the face of change. Altering requirements mid-project can be expensive and time-consuming. Feedback from stakeholders often comes late in the process, meaning that any issues identified during final testing may require substantial rework. This makes it less suitable for dynamic environments, fast-moving markets, or projects where requirements are likely to evolve as work progresses. Adaptive methodologies, often grouped under the Agile umbrella, take a very different approach. Rather than locking in scope and requirements up front, Agile methods focus on flexibility, collaboration, and delivering value in small, usable increments. Projects are divided into short cycles, often called iterations or sprints, where planning, execution, and review happen in rapid succession. This approach encourages constant feedback from stakeholders, allowing the project team to adjust priorities and deliverables as needs change. Agile is characterized by time-boxed cycles that each produce a working component of the final deliverable. At the end of each cycle, the team holds reviews and retrospectives to assess progress, gather stakeholder feedback, and adjust the plan for the next cycle. This iterative model is designed to encourage continuous improvement, reduce waste, and maintain a close alignment between the evolving solution and the business needs it serves. The strengths of Agile are most visible in environments where requirements are uncertain or likely to change. Agile allows for rapid responses to shifting priorities and delivers usable results early in the project lifecycle rather than waiting until the end. This creates a steady stream of value to stakeholders and fosters strong collaboration between technical teams and business users. The emphasis on working deliverables over lengthy documentation ensures that the project stays focused on producing outcomes rather than just planning them. Still, Agile has its own limitations. It requires disciplined, self-organizing teams capable of managing their own work within broad guidelines. Organizations with hierarchical control structures or rigid approval processes may struggle to adopt Agile practices effectively. Agile is also less effective when scope, budget, and deadlines must be fixed from the start, as the method relies on flexibility to succeed. Without clear boundaries, Agile projects can risk drifting away from their intended objectives. Hybrid methodologies combine elements of both predictive and adaptive approaches to create a tailored framework. A hybrid project might use waterfall techniques for the initial planning and design stages, where detailed requirements, budgets, and schedules are locked in, while shifting to Agile methods for the execution and delivery of specific components. This combination allows for structured oversight while maintaining flexibility where it is most valuable. A hybrid approach is particularly useful in projects with fixed deadlines but evolving deliverables. For example, a regulated IT implementation might require waterfall-level documentation and approvals for compliance purposes, while the development of certain features could proceed iteratively using Agile sprints. In large organizations with multiple teams, a hybrid model allows different work streams to operate at different paces while still feeding into a unified delivery schedule. Stakeholder involvement differs greatly between methodologies. In Waterfall, stakeholders are most involved at the beginning, during requirements gathering, and at the end, during acceptance and sign-off. In Agile, stakeholder involvement is continuous, with feedback gathered at the end of every iteration to shape the work ahead. In hybrid projects, stakeholder engagement is often segmented. Formal approvals may happen at milestone gates, while ongoing feedback shapes individual work packages or features during execution. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Documentation and planning vary significantly across methodologies, and these differences shape both how the work is managed and how easily it can adapt to change. In Waterfall, detailed documentation is created at the start of the project, including requirements, specifications, design documents, and project schedules. These form a fixed baseline that guides all subsequent work. Agile, by contrast, uses lighter, more flexible documentation, focusing on what is necessary to support current development without locking in details too early. Hybrid approaches often combine the two, establishing formal baselines for regulatory or contractual needs, while allowing iterative documentation for portions of the work that are still evolving. Risk management is also handled differently. In Waterfall, risks are typically identified and analyzed early in the planning phase, and a mitigation plan is developed before execution begins. This proactive approach can be effective when risks are known and predictable. Agile manages risk dynamically, using frequent feedback loops, small deliverables, and early testing to detect and address issues as they arise. Hybrid approaches blend these practices, performing an initial comprehensive risk analysis while also using Agile's iterative feedback to respond to emerging threats during execution. The way quality assurance is integrated into the work is another important distinction. Waterfall places quality checks at specific phases, such as after development and before deployment, meaning issues may be discovered late in the timeline. Agile embeds testing and validation into every iteration, ensuring the quality is assessed continuously and that feedback is acted on immediately. Hybrid strategies may retain major testing milestones, while also incorporating Agile's ongoing quality checks to catch and resolve defects earlier. Budgeting and cost control follow the philosophy of each methodology. Waterfall enables early cost estimation by defining all requirements up front, creating a detailed budget that aligns with the fixed scope. Agile takes a more flexible approach, often basing budgets on team capacity, velocity, and prioritized deliverables. Hybrid projects may establish an overall budget during planning while allowing for scope adjustments and delivery pacing within that budget, providing financial structure without sacrificing adaptability. Change management processes differ widely. In Waterfall, once the project plan is approved, changes are typically restricted and must go through formal change control procedures, often requiring multiple approvals. Agile is designed to embrace change, using backlog reprioritization and sprint adjustments to incorporate new requirements as they emerge. Hybrid models may designate certain deliverables as fixed, subject to formal change control, while leaving others open to Agile's flexible handling, ensuring that critical components remain stable while less critical elements can evolve. Communication cadence is another key variable. Waterfall projects rely on milestone-based status reporting, formal documents, and structured meetings at predefined intervals. Agile promotes high-frequency, informal communication through daily stand-ups, sprint reviews, and retrospectives. Hybrid communication blends these, maintaining formal reporting at agreed milestones, while using Agile's frequent touchpoints for work streams that require quick decision-making and collaboration. Project size can influence which methodology is most suitable. Waterfall works well for large-scale efforts with predictable outcomes, fixed contracts, and stable requirements. Agile is often most effective in smaller, highly collaborative teams working on products or services that are expected to evolve. Hybrid models can accommodate medium to large projects where some components are stable and predictable, while others demand flexibility and iterative development. Organizational culture has a strong influence on methodology fit. Companies with traditional structures, strict regulatory requirements, or a strong emphasis on documentation may naturally lean toward Waterfall. Organizations that value innovation, experimentation, and cross-functional teamwork often thrive in Agile environments. For those transitioning between these two cultural extremes, a hybrid approach can provide a gradual shift, allowing experimentation with Agile principles while retaining familiar structures. The tools and techniques used vary accordingly. Waterfall projects often rely on Gantt charts, requirements, traceability matrices, and baseline management software. Agile projects use task boards, burn-down charts, velocity tracking, and backlog management tools. Hybrid teams may integrate tools from both worlds. For example, maintaining a high-level Gantt chart for executive oversight while using Agile boards to manage the detailed work of development teams. Team roles and dynamics differ as well. In Waterfall, roles are clearly defined, with limited overlap between responsibilities. Agile encourages cross-functional teams where members take shared ownership of deliverables and often perform tasks outside their primary skill set. Hybrid projects may assign traditional planning and governance roles to one group, while another group operates under Agile principles to deliver iterative value. In summary, Waterfall, Agile, and hybrid methodologies each have distinct strengths, limitations, and ideal use cases. Waterfall offers predictability, structure, and control, making it effective for stable, highly regulated projects. Agile provides flexibility, speed, and customer engagement, excelling where requirements evolve rapidly. Hybrid bridges the gap, offering a customizable balance between control and adaptability. For the PK 0-005 exam, and for real-world project success, understanding when and how to apply each approach is essential for aligning project execution with organizational goals and constraints. Thank you for listening. Please follow baremetalcyber.com on social media and check out our books at cyberauthor.me.